Hello and welcome back to another episode of Redefining Moments. I am your host Kelly and I'm here, as I say always, to join you wherever you are at on your personal development journey. Now, right now I'm feeling incredible. I am feeling very high on life and appreciative of the beauty and joy I have in it. But earlier today I was feeling pretty miserable. I got into a loop and a spiral about not being enough, feeling like I'm too much, doubting myself with these podcasts, doubting myself with the things I'm doing in life. And as I record this now, it's around Christmas, and what I've done is I decided today, or yesterday, to draw a sketch for my brother and his wife of their newborn baby. And I put so much love into that sketch, in every detail, in the lines in her nostril, the shading on her face. I really put my time, my energy, and my love into that moment. But then I started to fear, what if it's not good enough? What if it's not right? What if it's not perfect enough to represent this gorgeous little human in our lives? And I started to spiral. And then with that, I started to doubt myself in other areas of my life. I've been giving a lot of homemade gifts recently, and I started to question, is what I'm giving enough? Am I really showing people how much I care about them, how much I love them? Should I be doing more? Should I be doing less? Should I be doing more for everybody else? And it just creates this spiral. Welcome to my own internal world. And I think with this, I just really started to doubt myself. Also, the other day, I listened to my podcast in the car with my friend, and it's great listening to it by myself. I'm so proud of what I've accomplished. I'm so proud of what I'm sharing with the world. But there's something about listening to yourself whilst being in front of a friend that can be so daunting. And I think for me, it's out of sight, out of mind. When I'm listening to it by myself, when I'm doing this in the moment, I feel so much joy, so much love, so much excitement and passion towards what I'm doing. But when I am aware of putting that vulnerability out into the world, when I suddenly become aware that that allows me to be open to other people's opinion and judgment, I become very afraid and very nervous. And I think that's what all these situations are showing me, is sometimes when you put your heart, your vulnerability, your love, your passion, whatever it may be, and you put it out into the world, you become exposed and you risk getting hurt. And what's interesting within this is I'm doing a 30-day art challenge, which my friend has created. She went on to ChatGPT and she created a 30-day art challenge, which we're doing together. And I'm loving doing it. And today we were doing light, the concept of light, like drawing a light source and only drawing the light in the bit we're drawing. And I found myself coming from this place of like what I should be doing, not feeling enough, feeling fragile, unworthy, not good enough, not perfect enough. And I noticed the restriction these thoughts were having on my ability to draw, on my ability to create art. And the last couple of days before, I felt free, I felt expansive, I felt expressive. And as a result of that, I was producing stuff that I've never produced before, but with freedom and flexibility. And I was actually really enjoying the artistic process again. But today I struggled, because today I felt like I was boxing myself in. I felt like my hands were stiff. I wasn't able to be free and flowing. And I didn't like my work as much as a result of it. And it wasn't until I went back that I did actually appreciate it a bit more. But I generally really struggled. And because of where my headspace was, I felt restrictive and held back and not able to be me, be free and be flowing and be joyful and expressive. And I guess that doesn't just show me what I'm like with art. It can show me what I can be like in every area of my life. When we become so fearful or so worried about how we look and who we are, and our thoughts become so focused and negative towards ourselves, we become small. We're not able to be expansive and expressive, and we're not able to reach a point of innovation, creativity, flow. And I guess this makes me think about every single area of our lives when it comes to our career and our work. It makes me think about how environments are very much created towards stress, not towards relaxing, being in the moment, expressing your creative flow. Instead, we're so busy worrying about the next thing or thinking about all the things we're doing wrong. And it's stopping us from being able to be more, do more, express ourselves freely. We become restricted. We become imprisoned by our own mind, our own stress, our own fear. And the beauty of this challenge that I've been doing with my friends is today I was able to observe the world through a new lens. And I was able to see the light in my life, whether that was the light in my friendships, because I've had some beautiful conversations today with my friends, to see the light in my friend's children's work. She shared her daughter's artwork with me, and it was exceptional. The level of detail, the time, the energy, the love that was put into it is amazing. And the conversations it led to with my friends, which I will share in a moment because I feel it's really valuable, that was a light in my life. And then the actual physical light I was observing. So throughout the day, because the project is focusing on light, I ended up exploring light sources throughout my day. And the beauty is these light sources can be, now I realize, people, experiences, the little glimmers we experience in our everyday. But I was observing the light that came through my room. I was observing the sun moving throughout the day as it hit different ornaments. I lit a candle and I observed the flicker of the light on it, but I also saw how the light bounced through the glass of the candle. I was able to see the shimmer that bounced off one of the vases I made years ago out of clay. And it created this wave-like appearance. And then as the sun began to set and it came through my room, it hit my crystal dream catcher, I guess I'll call it. I don't really know what it is, but the light shot through that and projected rainbows all over my room. And then the light from the window was captured on my wall, and the trees that were just blocking the light created this wave across the wall. And there were just so many moments of pure beauty that my eyes were able to capture. And these are things that would go unnoticed in my everyday life, especially if it wasn't for this challenge. Now, the thing I've noticed as I've been on my own personal development journey and as I've been healing is I've started to have more space to notice these things, to observe the beauty that isn't the Instagrammable pictures, but just the everyday, the things in our life that we take for granted. Whether right now I'm looking out my window and I'm just watching the wind blow through the trees. I occasionally have a woodpecker that lands on the bird feeder outside. When the sun is bright in the morning, I love having my curtains open for this reason, because I love waking up to the sun just slightly painting the trees. If we allow ourselves to look through life through the eyes of an artist, through the eyes of a photographer, through the eyes of a creative, there is something really magical about the world around us. We're able to see so much beauty, so much light, so much love. And today I was really able to see that. I was able to bring myself out of my own depths and darkness and misery and just victimhood, just spiraling deeper and deeper. And I was able to take a moment to really appreciate what beauty I already have in my life, the comments that my friends have made. Because the reason me and my friend got onto that conversation was she had actually been inspired through my first episode. And also, I would like to invite my friends onto the show eventually. So having that conversation inspired and provoked some thoughts in her, which led to a celebration of her own growth and her own journey. And as a result, it didn't just reflect to me the beauty of what I'm doing right now, where I'm just sharing freely, but it allowed me to appreciate another human being's journey, the battles they've faced, the things they've learned, the power they have reached in overcoming what they have overcome to be the version of themselves that they are today. And I'm so proud of my friends. It has been an absolute honor watching them grow and become the people that they are today. And when I met them as well, I already thought they were inspiring, beautiful, wonderful people. But as the years go on, this appreciation deepens. And the love I have for their own families is beautiful and wonderful. And it's sharing in that, it's sharing in our experiences, being in it together, being in that community. I think one thing I've realized that I've always craved is connection. And I realize as human beings, we lack so much of that connection, whether it's the connection to our world beyond ourselves, people, our planet, the beauty that surrounds us, each other, ourselves. I think we lack a connection to ourselves, and most of us are constantly distracting ourselves. And that gets me on to the conversation I was having with my friends today. So earlier today in my group chat, my friend shared the beautiful work of her children in our group chat. And once again, it was incredible. It's inspiring. And I think that's one thing we can learn from each other, regardless of our ages, regardless of our experiences. There's always an opportunity to learn and to be inspired by one another. We just have to be open to it. And this conversation led to allowing children to express their creativity, but also allowing them to be bored. And my friend said about when boredom arrives, like when we allow ourselves to be bored, it gives us the freedom to be creative. But one thing I also highlighted about those moments is when I allow myself to be bored, that's when all my subconscious thoughts, not all of them, but most of them, come to the surface. That's when my healing is like, oh, hello, I'm here. Remember that time you said this or did that? Well, let's just remind you of that right now. And that moment can be so crushing because you're like, oh God, I thought I'd forgotten about that. Why is this coming up now? But today I allowed myself to be bored. The reason I was struggling so much this morning is because I wasn't taking action. I wasn't doing anything with my day. And because of that, I was getting more caught up in my thoughts than actually doing something. And it wasn't until I actually started taking action that the day slowed down. I felt more grounded. And I had more opportunities in front of me rather than this negative spiral. But the balance is trying to find the space to allow yourself to be in those thoughts, allow yourself to work through them, allow yourself to give them time, space, compassion, love, nurturing when they come to the surface. But we don't always give ourselves that time. I think that's why my largest space of creativity or negative thoughts, depending on what mood I'm in, is usually when I'm driving, when I'm showering, and usually around 6 to 5 a.m. in the morning. I don't even know why, but I wake up and suddenly thoughts are flowing through. When I wake up, it's usually I'm able to tackle a problem, but a lot of the time I find myself getting stuck in these loops. And I can choose which wolf to feed. If you haven't heard that story, I hope many of you have. It's a great story about two wolves. It's a tale. And it's which wolf wins, the one you feed. And you have the bad wolf and the good wolf. And you choose which ones you want to put your attention into in life. But with these thoughts, I think sometimes we need to give attention to the bad wolf. Not in the sense of giving in, but understanding what it wants and what it needs. Because sometimes it's not actually bad, it's just misunderstood. And it just needs that time or energy just to be heard out and loved and thought of and seen. It's the unspoken parts of ourselves that have been pushed down for years, have been ignored, been unheard and not really valued. And just giving ourselves that time to actually sit with it and understand what it's trying to tell us and what we can do to support it. It could just be the answer we need. Sometimes it might just be that embarrassing story came up to protect us and you can just go, that was funny, and let it pass by. In other cases, it might be, I really need a cuddle right now, or something like that. And for me, whenever my mind is saying that, it's usually, I really need to be nurtured right now. I really need to slow down and listen to my needs right now. There is something I'm not doing for myself. But it's giving ourselves that space to lean into the boredom, to lean into a space where we're not constantly being distracted. Because I don't know about you, but I think since mobile phones have become a deep part of our lives, and since Netflix and movies have been constantly available, music constantly available, I think we're distracting ourselves into the grave. We're distracting ourselves to the point that we're numbing pain with pain relief. We're numbing creativity and solutions with distraction. Sometimes the only way to get through something is to sit with it and move through it rather than constantly distracting yourself from it. And actually, this brings me back to a really beautiful point I wanted to mention in one of my episodes. So when I was traveling last year, I was eating cookies on the beach, and one of the cookies broke off, a big chunk of it, and I was gutted because I wanted to eat my cookie. And there was a part of me that kind of was like, right, I'm going to bury it. Like hide it in the sand, pretend nothing happened. I'm going to bury the cookie. And then later on, I was just lying on the beach and there was a stick, and I started to spin the stick through the sand and created spirals. And I was just spiraling and spiraling and spiraling. And in my mind, I was like, I feel like this is a representation of life. I don't know why, but I just felt it was a representation of life. Going about your day, just going around, living life. And then, unknowingly, that cookie I buried deep to the surface started to appear at the top, and it started to block the stick and get in its way. So I decided to dig another hole, bury it, and then I went back to playing with my stick. And then as time went on, bits of the cookie started to break off. They started to get in the way of me moving the stick in its spiral. And the more they crumbled and fell apart, the harder it was for me to bury. The harder it was for me to hide the broken parts of the cookie. And I remember sitting there in that moment and thinking, wow, this is such a good metaphor for our lives and our trauma. Whether it's trauma with a big T or trauma with a little t, whatever's happened to us, whatever's hurt us, caused us pain, those are open wounds that sit within us. I found it was a really good example of what can happen when we push those wounds down without fully acknowledging them, digesting them, breaking them down properly, and allowing them to pass through us. Instead, it kept coming back. I couldn't control when or where it came back in the sense of life. And the more I tried to push it down, the more it broke down and pieces of it was continuously revealing itself. And I think this represents a lot in our physical body. I see it a lot working in healthcare. I see people coming in with long-term pain and illnesses, chronic conditions such as, I guess, even having a hip replacement. And the thing I've started to notice in my own body is where the imbalances can occur early on. And if you don't notice them or observe them, if you're too busy distracting yourself, that problem can progress and progress and progress until you can no longer hide it anymore. Or you have to do something quite drastic to resolve it. And I think this is the case with a lot of our wounds healing, our life experiences, is things will show up in our lives, whether it's in our relationships breaking down, whether it's in our emotional well-being, our physical well-being, whether it's in our work, our emotional health in terms of just how we feel. If we keep pushing and ignoring our needs and distracting ourselves from our needs, then there's going to be a point in our lives where that's going to reveal itself. So I guess the key of what I'm trying to say here is, how can we make sure that we are allowing ourselves to be bored, to sit with those moments, to give ourselves that space? And it doesn't have to be through sitting and doing hours of meditation. Like, that can help. But I know myself, for me, mine's through movement, mine's through expression. Journaling has been a great tool. Dancing, movement, my headstands, yoga, swimming was even great as a child. There are art, singing. There are so many tools available to us that work somewhat as a distraction. They allow you to embody experience or situation in the moment. When I've been really emotional, sometimes I just dance through it, listen to music on loud, and physically feel myself stomping it out, shaking it out, moving it out. There are so many things available to us now. Instead of sitting there and numbing ourselves to the world and life, even taking those moments to notice the beauty that surrounds us. I think it's time that we start waking up to life. Time to start really appreciating what truly exists around us. The people, the plants, the life. Using all our senses. Because you might be surprised what you notice today. So today, take on the challenge to just notice. To spend a moment with yourself and observe life through a different lens, maybe through the eyes of an artist. Give yourself permission to be, to relax, and to just see. See what this world offers you without you even noticing it. Until next time.